Tom Mulcair, as you predicted, I heard you this morning with Andrew. You said you believed, your sources told you, that Marc Tanguay would in fact become the interim provincial Liberal leader, and that's in fact exactly what happened. So what do we need to know about him?
Smart guy, experience, very sharp in question period. He's going to give Legault a rough time because he's very, very good on his feet. He's, like I say, he's a lawyer with deep experience in the House. He knows all of the procedural rules. So it's going to be fun to watch. Now, there's something very bizarre happening with the Liberal rules. Every other party you can think of, think of Candace Bergen, who was there temporarily before the Conservatives decided to vote in Pierre Poilievre. You go back, that's always what happens. When Jack tragically passed away, we had Nicole who came in, took the leadership of the party until we could have the vote and things like this. This is the way you do it. And the condition, of course, is once they're in there as the temporary leader, then you're not allowed to run in the general leadership. So lo and behold, the Liberals have this really strange rule that they've been explaining, that actually Marc Tanguay, and he said today he's keeping the door open to a run for the overall leadership of the party, not just the interim leadership. That's a very bizarre situation. Because what it does, he's going to have every single question period. He gets the soapbox. He gets to open every single question period as leader of the official opposition, gets to fire away at Legault and set the tone and set the agenda for the day. So that would give him an undue advantage vis-a-vis anybody else. Now, it was interesting because Andre Fortin, one of the other people who today announced that he is preparing his own leadership bid, he was saying, yeah, but you know what? He's going to have to be stuck with the current Liberal rules and the current Liberal Party policy. He says, if I'm running as a candidate, I'm allowed to spin all sorts of different notions and ideas and put them on the table because I'm running for the leadership, so I can come up with different party policies, which is not untrue, but I still believe that the overall advantage to somebody like Marc Tanguay is unbelievable if they actually let him run for the leadership after he's been doing this interim stint that could easily, from my sources inside the Liberal Party, could easily last a year and a half, 2 years. They want to create a bit of a buzz around the leadership vote. They want to bring in somebody a little bit closer to the election date so that they won't, have time to flame out, essentially, if they were to choose them too early.
Yet we understand there are already a couple of people. We were speculating, of course, the day Dominic Anglade walked away, who might be the person. So I heard Andre Fortin's name mentioned already today. There are people out there queuing up, right?
Oh, absolutely. And there are names, François-Philippe Champagne, who's a current federal minister, does a pretty darn good job in the area of industry and innovation and that sort of stuff. I've been hearing again and again his name coming up in top-ranked Liberal circles. Now, nothing drives a provincial Liberal up the wall more than being told that they're close cousins with the federal Liberals. But the fact of the matter is, their membership base crisscrosses a lot more than they want to admit. And Champagne is an incredible orator. He's just a bundle of energy. He's got tons of ideas, and he would, give this a serious run if ever he went for it. I don't think it's in the cards, but I keep hearing it from pretty serious people. The name of Pierre Moreau has been out there, but again, I more or less believe that one. I think that he understands that he's part of a prior generation. The people that you'd be looking for would basically have to be, in their 50s at the most, because they're going to have a 4-year wait till the next election. They've got to crisscross the province constantly. They have to have a lot of energy, and I just don't see somebody, Pierre's more my age, mid-60s, that sort of thing. I think it might be a bit tougher for him to wait for 4 years if ever he were to get the leadership.
I'm only seeing men's names thrown about so far.
You noticed that, did you, Natasha? No flies on you while you're so observant. Yes, all men. Oh, what a surprise. The Liberal Party is not in a glorious position right now with the way that it handled Dominic Anglade's ouster, the plotting and the conniving and the scheming behind her back. She left with her head held high. I think she did a fantastic, final lap, just saying, okay, that's it. I'm letting somebody else take over. She's going to stay there, interestingly enough, until December 1st, and that might have actually been the object of a discussion. There is a tiny technical detail. For Enrico Ciccone or anybody else to be recognized as the caucus president, the caucus chair, you would say in English, in French, président, the party has to have 20 members. And right now, if Dominic Anglade were to leave right now, they'd only have 19. But when the House comes back on the 29th of November, they'll have their 20 because Anglade will still be there. She'll be there for another couple of days. So this whole discussion about Marie-Claude Nichols comes right back again. There were some journalists asking Enrico Ciccone if he was going to apologize, and good for him. He just looked at them and said, apologize for what? And so Tanguay was very good. He had very measured tones, and he had very developed lines. He said, look, I'm going to be sitting down with Marie-Claude and having a coffee with her, and he was obviously there. He was one of the officers. He had already been tagged as house leader, so he knew everything that went on. So I don't think that he's going to be in a hurry to apologize, but I do think that they would love to get her back as a symbol of the fact that the party is starting a rebuilding process.
If you're her, what are you doing?
You accept whatever olive branch is held out for you. There are tons of other jobs she can have. It would be an embarrassment for the Liberal Party after getting rid of the only black person and the only woman they've ever had as leader, the only black person who have ever led a party in Quebec with seats in the National Assembly. Franz Benjamin is one of the only other, perhaps the only other black person in the Liberal caucus. I might be missing somebody in the newest group. But, if he were told, he would become, if he gets the third deputy speaker role, vice-présidence, if he gets that third role, he'd be the first black person to ever occupy one of those important roles. And I think that if they were to roll that back, that would be nuts. I've been talking to a lot of people in the Haitian community. They're incredibly upset about the treatment, what they consider to be the shabby, not to use stronger words, treatment of Dominique Anglade. And if they were to do this to Franz Benjamin, who has a very big fan club and a big following in the Haitian community, I think that the Liberals would never be able to count on that community again. And it's always been one of the most stalwart supporters of the Liberal Party.
Okay, I have two questions. Number one, you can just dismiss this out of hand if it's entirely unreasonable, Tom. So you're talking about federal Liberals, and I thought right away, Mélanie Joly, I know she's got a very big position in the federal government. This woman came out of nowhere to run for mayor and actually came close. Could it happen here or not?
She's one of the best politicians I know. She is incredibly solid on her feet. She knows her files like very few people. And she's a very genial person. She knows how to talk to people. If things are going rough, she knows how to talk to journalists. She's got skills that are unbelievable. But I can't see her leaving Ottawa.
Okay.
I just don't see that in the cards. And
right.
By the way, it's not a name that I've even heard. I have heard Champagne's name from lots of people, but hers I've never heard.
Only from me. I get it.
Interesting.
That's fine. So now let me ask you about Quebec Solidarity. What is this trying to rewrite the rules again because they're not happy the CAQ has a supermajority? Here we go again?
Well, they're raising an interesting procedural point. It's this notion that for certain big jobs, you wanted to make sure that it wasn't just the party that was in power. So you required a 2/3 majority, but lo and behold, they've got that on their own. So it does weaken that safeguard that you want to have there for some really serious positions. You wanted to make sure that you had some of the other parties on side. The CAQ doesn't need them anymore. So they're right to complain about it, but no, you can't change the rules. And we've been in that position before. I think that Legault has more than enough institutional depth and experience to understand that he shouldn't act completely on his own. He's going to need to bring at least one other party on side when he has major appointments to make that require a 2/3 majority.
Wow, I kind of look at that and think, why would you? Hey, here's what I got. We were legitimately elected. The hell with everybody else.
I think he's going to have to show a lot of maturity, and he's got that. But I think he's going to have to show a lot of maturity because you can't become the person who all of a sudden, with that supermajority, doesn't listen to anybody anymore because that is something that you'd pay a heavy price for long term.
Okay.
He's already pretty good at that.
I was going to bring up Bill 21 we know is in the courts.
Yep.
And I know today the MSB's lawyer had a chance to say what he had to say.
Yeah, and I thought it was very well said, by the way. And, the English-speaking communities talked generally about Bill 96 and all the stuff we've been going through. But the school board stuff is so crucial. It's such an important piece. I live in a rural area. And, some of my grandkids went to French school and some were in English school. And I can tell you those little English schools, to use that image, they're holding on by their fingertips. Mm-hmm. They've got the best staff you've ever seen. The people who tend to go out to those outlying communities who are part of the English-speaking community, they either have deep roots there or they just find it really cool to live in the country. And you've just got the best staff, the best teachers, absolutely fantastic schools. But they don't have any resources. They're just they're having a really hard time. And if all of a sudden the government takes away the ability for the community to have its own school boards, which are constitutionally guaranteed, and they are beyond the reach of the notwithstanding clause, then it would be a disaster. So they're right to dig in and to use every single opportunity to say why the control and management of the minority language school boards is essential, which, by the way, leads to the first time we've ever mentioned this in, well, certainly in a long time, Bill C-13, which is before the House of Commons right now, which is Trudeau's opus on language. It is falling apart at the seams. It's the object of a massive filibuster by the Conservatives and the Bloc Québécois. It looked like the Liberals and the NDP were about to get together on November 22nd and impose closure on it, but that would be extremely embarrassing for the NDP. It's not part of their deal with the Liberals, and for an opposition party to be part of a closure motion to shut down debate would be incredibly embarrassing for them. But at the same time, there's a lot of pressure from the Acadians and the Francophones outside Quebec to get some of the stuff that's in there. But for the English-speaking community in Quebec, Bill C-13 is a bit of a Trojan horse. It's complicated stuff, but there are elements of Bill C-13 that should be of grave concern to the English-speaking community of Quebec. On top of all the stuff that we've had to go through with the CAQ, we've got the Liberals in Ottawa playing around with this language file with very blunt instruments. I'm sure that Minister Petitpas-Taylor is doing everything that she can, but it's quite clear that she does not have full mastery of this very complex file.
All right. Thank you, Tom.